everybody. I'm going to do something a little unconventional because anybody who knows me, they know I refer to myself as the Mad Hatter of Montessori, okay? So, for those who don't know who that is, because I just talked to a therapist not too long ago and they were like, what is that? I literally have a cup that says Mad Hatter on it. Um, I'm coming from a different angle. So, I'm going to talk to you like we're sitting on the couch having coffee or tea, and we are just conversing. Um, I'm speaking in a backwards way because a lot of people that I encounter, I am in Texas, don't even know what Montessori is, right? I was an ABA therapist before they even called us ABA therapists back oof, over 15 years ago, right? I'm approaching the beautiful age of 40. And so I've been doing this for a little while. And I'm going to start by telling you a story of how I even came to know what Montessori was. And it goes like this. I was an ABA therapist in an inclusion school, um, where there were children enrolled with different diagnoses as far as autism, ADHD, behavioral issues that weren't quite diagnosed but were pretty impactful, pretty high intensity behaviors. And so here I am in my little bubble just doing my ABA work. And they brought the first Montessorian in. She first came to do a tour for us, and we all thought, she's strange. You ever met somebody where you're like, she's always happy. Why is she always happy? Right? Especially because we're so used to being enthralled in these high intensity behaviors. And she kept inviting me at the copy machine, Gayla. She ended up being my mentor. I love her. Um, and she would say, you should come into my classroom. You should come into my classroom. You should just come one time into my classroom. And I kept thinking, I am not going into this crazy lady's classroom. When she moved into the building, she brought lamps and wooden tables, and we're thinking all that's going to get broken. Are you new here? And so one day during a break, I went into her classroom. It took me all of 4 minutes, and I stood in the observation area and I cried. And I'm not making it up. I mean, I cried because these are children that I had witnessed for the greater part of a year who could not sit still in their class, or the teachers would have to call for an ABA therapist to come inside and help regulate the behavior. And they were working beautifully together, independently. And the lamps weren't broken, and they were getting snacks on their own, and they were being kind, and they were sharing, and all of these wonderful things. And before I left, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Before I left, I literally said, I don't know what that is, but I need to be a part of it. I want to be in that world. I want to share the same peace as those children. Okay. um Fast forward, I became certified Montessorian. And I got my own classroom, right? In the same building with the same children that I had seen for years. And it was that was it. That's all I needed. It kicked the door down for me. And it literally changed my entire life. Like the trajectory of what I thought I wanted went out the window, and this absorbed me. I will also add that I am a mother of 5 boys, 3 of them who are diagnosed with autism and or ADHD. My oldest is 14. He was severe speech delayed. Um, we were erring on the side of he may not read, he may not speak. My son he's able to read, he is able to speak, and this has everything to do with me snatching him out of the traditional setting and placing him in a Montessori setting. So I wanted to start out by saying that before I even get into the work that I've personally and am continually doing and pushing forth in our mission to make inclusion a thing, right? I know that earlier mentioned, it was said that we are taught in our studies, right, to kind of not rock the boat, be this silent peace and steady will. But I feel like part of the reason why a lot of people don't know, and this might be controversial to some people. I will lead by saying I've never advertised myself as a traditionalist, ever, ever. Okay. But I feel like that's what works. There have been so many, all of the great speakers before me, amazing. I'm so happy and just proud to be a part of this community. I've learned a lot already. Um, but I'm going to speak to the skeptic who might be listening, okay? About how you don't see how a child who does have behaviors, because we could talk about neurotypical versus neurodivergent all day, but let's talk about the child who does have the behaviors of flipping things. Because when you're good at doing something, typically you're the chosen one, right? You get chosen, like, oh, she can handle behaviors, put them in her class, right? That became a passion of mine, to work with the child who was written off in a Montessori environment, because there are glass things and there are things that can get broken and there are things that can get flipped. And with my experience of being a RBT, or a registered behavioral therapist first, technician first, and then a Montessorian, I feel like gave me a little bit of edge in the Montessori world, because here locally, I'm the person that is called when there needs to be some sort of information, or parents reach out to me and say, hey, I don't know how are you getting them to do that in class, right? So let's talk about that. Aaron just mentioned that along the ride, right, there are things that you see before a child starts throwing objects. Unseat yourself. That is a lot of what is we are so tied into this concept of what Montessori is and should look like, and has been taught to us how to be proper practitioners in it, that I think sometimes we get really tied tight to our um, mindset, which is a beautiful mindset. There's nothing wrong with it. However, I say unseat yourself because while you are there to observe and to help navigate, is it possible that we've lost sight of being peers to these children instead of just being instructors to these children? It's a very big possibility that while we are teaching them, and doing our presentations, that we've lost the magic ourselves. And so that is why I call myself the Mad Hatter, because you will find me swinging on a lunch break, or you will find me playing and I'll probably blend in because I'm under 5'1", all right? I'm a little tiny thing. But um unseating myself was the biggest reality check. I myself personally found that when I tried to check the boxes of what a Montessorian looks like, I was so unhappy and I felt so much pressure. And then I thought one day, if I feel this way, and the child who's in the classroom throwing objects or flipping tables has no way to communicate this to me, they feel this 3 times more because I've lived just a little bit longer than them. Just a little bit longer than them, right? All of you guys too. You've only lived a little bit longer than them, right? What we are seeing right now with inclusion, and what we are seeing right now in general with educating in Montessori, is that instead of looking at these children and thinking to ourselves, we need to try to make them fit into the environment, like it was said, this beautiful environment that we have set up. Why are we not changing the mindset and thinking we are training up the next artist that will be in someone's living room for the next 50 years? We are training up the next musician who will be played for years and years to come, the next Da Vinci's, the next Angelou's, all of these things, just because they don't navigate inside of this box. And I'm sure that a lot of the classics were written off as mad, but some of their behaviors kind of mimic the child who can hyperfixate on something for hours and hours and hours. Now, practically, we wouldn't want them to be doing art for an amassed amount of time, right? And that is where the training kicks in to where ABA works. So if I'm giving you a selection, because this was the number one question of some of the parents who would bring their children, if I'm, well, if they're able to choose what they want and we're following the child, they would sit in the music area for 6 hours and they would never touch math. They would never touch cultural studies. They would never touch language. So if I'm giving you a choice board and you get to do what you want first, and then my selection is on there, and then you get to choose what you want to do, and then my selection is on there, and my selection is naturally going to be either an introduction of a work or something that we can practice and I can take notation on just for documentation purposes, correct? um, it is a beautiful thing. And everybody gets what they want, which cuts down on some of those big behaviors because whether we are saying that we're telling them or not telling them to do something, the classroom itself can be an antecedent manipulation. Or, I'm sorry, what is another way to say that? The classroom, what's another way, Erin?
Like
The,
a precursor, like a
yes, yes. So approaching my door automatically can send me into fight or flight if I'm a child who is known to throw a couple blocks or knock over a couple of glass vases, right? That classroom itself signifies work. And while as Montessorians, we believe that work is play, in their mind, they don't even really want to play here with you in this area. They'd rather be doing something they want to do. So make what is necessary a choice to them. Make it a choice to them. Therefore, it's cutting back on some of the behaviors. As far as when we are on the journey and we're passing all these warning signs, there is something that I like to teach anybody that I'm doing consultation with or even parents, which is there are three different things we can be, right? We can be overreactive when those things happen, right? We can be underreactive, which is dangerous when those things happen, or we can choose to be proactive, right? And proactive just means if I know that I have a child that doesn't really like education in any form at all, period, right? Why are we so hung up on it being, I'm going to use, mm, I'm going to use, let's see, the pink tower has been mentioned multiple times. Why are we so hung up on using the pink tower where those things hurt? I've been hit by a block from the pink tower. Okay. Why are we so hung up on using that versus letting them in their own natural environment find items to stack in the appropriate way that we would do? We need to be a little more malleable and not so concrete and not so classic that we are actually excluding while I'm trying to include. Okay. So some people might not like that. A lot of people might go and clutch their pearls. It might be something that is so foreign and it feels unnatural because you've been doing this for so long that this is the way that you are. We are moving into a ratio of 1 to 5, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. 1 to 5 children are considered neurodiverse or neurodivergent. Okay. So what does that mean? That means eventually we are going to be the ones that are kind of not fitting into the mold of thought process. Okay. So if we don't change the way that we educate, then we're not going to fit in to the educational structure. All right. I worked at this inclusion school, and then I thought to myself that there is such a need for our children. And I say our because I mentioned I am the mother of special needs children who deserve the same the same quality and beautiful experience as everyone else who has access to Montessori. But my children would quickly be dismissed from a program when they first started Montessori. I would be the person, the mama, sitting down at the meetings, and they would be speaking very politely to me. However, I would know in my head, we're getting ready to get discharged. 2 hours of that silence in the work period is very long to some children. And so I ventured off to create a school. I had a brick and mortar. It was called Montessori by Ray. Um, and when I tell you, it was the most beautiful experience, but I knew there was a need. I didn't know the need was that great until we opened our doors here in Central Texas. Okay. When we opened our doors, I made it a point to speak to the parents. I know that Aaron had mentioned collaborative partnerships with families. Okay. When I tell you that it healed something inside of me to be able to be the person sitting across the table and forming relationships with these families who have been told that their children could not participate in an environment like this, so much that they had believed it, so much that they had actually thought that this wasn't a place for their kids. It was my personal mission to prove them and everybody else wrong. And we did it beautifully. We did it beautifully. You weren't going to walk in and it looked very much so like a traditional setting. Of course, all of my materials were there, but there would be times where we would include dance breaks. I would walk down the hallways with a karaoke machine, belting from the top of my lungs. I'm not a singer, by the way. I would have moments where I'm known as the pixie around here, okay? I would throw glitter, and because they also need to know that the world is messy. And I think sometimes we get lost in the concept of everything being beautiful, and we do take a lot of time for the prepared environment. But life is also messy, and they have a place in life, so they will have a place in the environment. And what that does is ultimately create a bigger community for our community and inclusion when it comes to bringing the family in and letting them know that not only is this a setup for their child, but it is a setup for their family. It creates a platform for communication to happen where it's not prim and proper, where it is not strategically laid out, and your data backs up what you're doing. Okay? So, um, yes, sweeping up glitter from Christmas crafts is a thing. My husband has learned to just live with glitter. Um, it's just his life now. um, I think that ultimately the point that I'm trying to get across, even though I've bounced from here to there, is this. If we are going to make a difference and we are going to make inclusion a big thing, we have to ultimately unseat ourselves and place ourselves in this soil. And in the soil is enrichment still. It is not breaking the integrity of the work to not take yourself so serious as a provider. You just, yes, everything that people search up when I tell them I'm a Montessorian. Some people who just met me, and they've probably met me in the most like me doing grocery store karaoke for everybody because I forget that everybody's around. It's like, oh, I do Montessori. And they look it up and they're like, you? Yes. So Montessori is for everybody. I would like for myself to be a trailblazer in shifting the mindset of how people view Montessori, as well as the mindset that the child who does throw materials, or the child who knocks things over, or the child who cannot sit still for longer than 15 minutes has a place in our world, because our world is their world and we share the same world, and we all share the same goal, which is to create this environment that is beautiful and peaceful and create peace for life. Um, Not to mention that Montessori was founded off of the same principles, going back to the ABA side of it. B.F. Skinner even though in a different time frame. So I always tell people, and I don't want to be a commercial when it comes to ABA because I've been, Aaron knows, I've started riots online. That's how me and Aaron met. Um, you do not have to get all the way certified, but I am a big cheerleader for every Montessorian that I know, whether it is you're a lead Montessorian or you are a Montessori assistant, to take an RBT class. And what that means is you are getting behavioral therapy. And while you might not know how to implement it, at least you have some idea so that you have that underneath you. I don't feel like a lot of Montessorians are trained. My mentor used to come to me for information on how to modify or to make things accessible to some of the children who would not have been accepted into her classroom. Um, RBT courses are beautiful. You can find them. Sometimes there are companies who provide them for free, and at least you have the knowledge underneath your belt to make that happen. Um, yeah. So off the top, that's pretty much what I stand on. I'm trying to think of what else because I had this big presentation, but then I was like, no thanks. Um, Mad Hatter, remember? Um, let's see. Ultimately, turn your collaborative parent partnerships or family partnerships into a consistent thing. It shouldn't just be an entrance interview. It should be we're constantly checking in. We're constantly seeing how they're feeling. We're constantly making them feel like they are a part of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Um, and talk to your students. Talk to your students and see what their goals are because ultimately they know too. We can't just give them choice in the works. We have to give them choice in what they want their days to look like as well. Yeah. Um, there's something to be said about a provider or instructor who is willing to remove themselves and to make themselves more childlike in order to reach the masses. So that would be my challenge to everyone. If you don't feel like you're playful enough in your classrooms, try to be a little more playful. Okay. You'd want to do 1 minute. Yes. Yes. So I don't know. Any questions? Any comments?
Um, I do have one. This is
Where?
Pam.
Oh, hi, Pam.
Because I'm in the opposite of what you're in right now. I
Absolutely.
Because my Montessori classroom, when I was in the classroom, I always would do certain things. I would have my dance breaks. The kids knew me as having a dance breaks, and they would even ask Miss Fouch, "Can we have a?" Oh, sorry, sorry. Can we have a dance break? Or something of that nature. And then my kids were allowed to work on the floor on their tummy,
Yes.
their legs up, and then the classroom was built around that. Like, if that's what so and so needs, we're going to do that. We're going to help them through that. And I made the classroom um, inclusive or inviting of that. If
Hmm.
even with the playing of the music in my classroom, we would have music and I would ask the kids, is that one too loud? Or, what do we think about this one? And they knew that it could be their choice, or it could be a collaborative choice, or it could be sometimes maybe what I needed.
Hmm.
Like, it was just all of that. So I'm used to all that. I did get pushback on that. Obviously, not
Yes.
fortunately, I did get pushback on that. Um, Not from any particular school, just in general. Um, I was told one time that this was years ago, that I was ruining the kids for all the other teachers, and that hurt me to my heart because I'm like, I'm just trying to, do my part and have kids be involved in their education of their learning. So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going off task. So my thing is, though, my question I think to you then is, because I'm in the process now of wanting to get more training or more information on working with kids with autism,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing some things that I feel like even though it's inclusive or it's designed to be inclusive, there's some inclusiveness in it as well. Like, um, I don't know.
Give me an example.
An
Let's start there.
example of there's the toys or the things in the classroom that the child needs. It could be either for the running of their particular task,
Okay.
or the toys that are their preferred items, things that they gravitate to. And I'm learning that those are the same things in Montessori as well. They're, but anyway, so the classroom, but things are all over the place. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if this is Kimmy's table and all her work is here and her names are on the things, but then some of her things are over here because that's just where it was put when it fell or something of that nature. And then they
Okay.
kids to ask if they want to play with each other's items. But if it's already over here, that to me seems it's disruptive when you're trying to um, uh, divert that behavior of this child getting agitated because their things are over here. I don't know. That's probably not a good example, but
Oh, it's a perfect example. And not only that, it is okay. Hang with me for a minute, okay? Teachable moments. Is everybody familiar with this term? Teachable moments, okay? In life, we have things as adults. I'll go from the adult standpoint. In life, we have things where we try it and we go, "Ooh, I didn't like that," right? But we can communicate this. In the moment, if you have a student, and let me make sure that I'm understanding, okay? If you have a student who has things here and things there, and it's what we as adults view as disrupting the environment and the peace in the environment, correct? Am I correct?
yes, for my scenario, I think that was part of my.
Okay.
It was my thing, not anything else. Just me going from a Montessori classroom now to this environment.
Okay. Well, it goes across environments because this is the teachable moment in it. In life, we're going to have things that happen that disrupt peace. What that can be actually is it probably could be more than what I'm thinking, but it is an opportunity to get this child um, into a situation where they can ask for help. You can model communicatively of how we can work together as a team to restore this area. Not only that, we are teaching um, care of environment in the moment, right? We don't have to contrive it. And it's not going to be something that is quick. This is going to be a repetition of doing this practice over and over again, right? But the environment itself is an educational tool. So if we have things here and we have things there, and in our mind as instructors, we want this child to have their own zone because let's be very realistic. Work mats are great for neurotypical children. And they can be great for neurodivergent children, but neurodivergent children require a little more training, if we want to use that word very loosely, of what that work mat is actually for. I know in my school, we would use the work mats and we would start them out very early. I would take infants and raise them up into the program. Um, that is correct. It takes 40. It takes 40. Beautiful. Thank you, Linda. It takes 40, right? So for a child who might be neurodivergent, double that and contrive situations throughout the day to where they can practice this skill. And if it's happening naturally, that's even better. So instead of viewing this as it's disruptive to the environment, we could change the mindset and thinking this is a self-contrived incident that is that is giving this child more practice. Because if it was, the pink tower or the brown tower or the red rods, we would expect them to kind of be laid out in a manner, and the restoring process is to put them back properly in the correct manner. So it would be a situation where we are putting the items back onto a work mat, or let's say if it's something small, beads were a thing in my kindergarten classroom. The beads would start out in one area. A child would travel with the beads, especially one of my babies. I had a baby who would take them, and she was so spread. I loved her because she was so witty and just whimsical. But they would end up here and they would end up there, and now it's viewed as a mess. But then we contrive situations where she would be able to ask a peer if they would help her um, restore them. And so now we are working as a team. It's a collaborative thing, and we are restoring the environment. We have a sense of community as well as sense of organization, and they're not being excluded, and they don't feel like they are making a mess. And eventually what we had seen was the incident of controlled chaos of items here and there was kind of dwindling down. We were decreasing the behavior of not staying within the work area, and increasing the social aspect of restoring and community. So then we were left with social and community, and the mess of the environment disappeared, because eventually we learned we're going to have to restore this and why we're restoring it. But at the end, the ultimate lesson was now I feel comfortable enough to ask for help, and my peers are automatically going to drive in. That's the inclusion setting. I'm asking friends who know that they didn't help make the mess to help me, and they're actually doing it. And so now I've built trust in my environment as well.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I originally
Yes.
wanted, oh yeah, are you answering the questions? Okay, you got it.
Incremental shaping behaviors. Beautiful.
Oh, I was gonna say too, I originally wanted to have the behavior people on, with this, if anybody would sign up. So you would have Pamela and, anyone with questions about behavior, you would have like two worlds of it. Because there's a whole side of this going on in the behavioral world with our own different language and scientific, language and concepts that apply, that is happening in our Montessori environments, but we just don't know about it. We don't know the words of it in our Montessori world. It just seems like we just don't know how to talk about it. But I don't know, to get the two groups to talk together would be so awesome. But yeah, so now you have another resource here. Contact Ray anytime.
Yes.
You have Michelle Lane. There's more people who can help you with the behavior. And then Letitia as well. She has posted what she's been trained in. And then I think Nicole. So a lot of people have done like extra work in this. So there are more than us. There more than just us. So keep reaching out and keep contacting each other.
Yes. Well, I was prompted to get more information and training or whatnot on it because there's a group of families in my neighborhood who want me to start homeschooling their kids.
Yay! That's what I do now. That's what I do now. I ended up falling ill, and I ended up having to close my brick and mortar. And so now I have two students as well as my children that I homeschool. And both of them I've had forever, but one in particular, I was his RBT first. I was his behavioral therapist first. And then when I got certified, his mom made sure he was in my classroom. And then when I ended up opening my brick and mortar, he came with me there. I think I've worked with him since he was 4. He will be 12 years old this year. And so he is my longest running data, I tell his mom all the time, that I've ever had in my life. He's a prime example and I won't, obviously I want to protect my baby, but um, in a traditional Montessori classroom, he would have not been accepted. He would not have been accepted. I will tell you right now that the world would be the world would benefit so much if he was to go on and become a certified Montessorian. That's how great he is now. As far as leading, because with the mixed age groups, he had an opportunity to show that he wasn't just this child who could set it off in a heartbeat. He was actually a very strong leader. And a lot of the behaviors come from intense passion about your own belief, even as adults. Sometimes we get really angry about something that's happening. And it's just because your belief in what should happen is so strong that it forces this reaction, right? It's like that with children as well. If I feel like we should be having snack right now, where is the food? Okay. Um, so yeah, behaviors in classrooms, especially if you are, it's very hard. It is very hard to watch every single child and give them that individualized at the same time, right? But oftentimes there are cues. We all do them. This is a big one, right? Uh-oh. I'm immediately looking in that area like, oh, what's going on? Or another one that a lot of people kind of misjudge is when a child says, but that's mine. And it can sound like that the first time in a classroom where you are managing behaviors, but well, that's mine. And it sounds just like that. And next thing you know, everything's flying and mats are over here and blocks are over there and someone's crying and but that's mine. Once you get to know a child, you know that but that's mine can mean, hey, put them up. Like to some kids, something so small is something so huge. So this is a process of trial and error. It's not going to be perfect, but it's messy and it's beautiful and it's our world and that's where we live. So, and that's the real world. Getting cut off in traffic, you're going to have something to say. You're going to be upset about it. That's what a child feels like when somebody stomps all over their work that they just worked on for a solid 20 minutes. And now all my pieces are over here and over there because whether it was intentional or not, you destroyed it. Okay. So those set off big behaviors. Um, a lot of things that I did that was kind of shaping behavior in the classrooms as well is I would always, and teachers, oh, when I would tell some of my traditional teachers or even some of my Montessori peers, they'd be like, why would you do that? I would immediately start my day with a dance party immediately. You want to know why? It wears them out, first of all. Mom hack. The second thing is that if I'm encouraging you, let's hold hands, let's jump around. Now we've had that physical touch. It's a reminder that I'm working next to a human, okay? Humans make error, all right? So now we are working in this together. We're here together. And you never know what that child is coming in the classroom. They might have just got fussed at for not putting on their shoes fast enough because we're human, right? As parents, we're human. Um, it cleans the slate for you and it cuts down on a lot of behaviors. And if you need to throw in a midday dance party, that's your business. Somebody, and we all like a little midday dance party. But yeah, let's stop the behaviors before the behaviors start. I always used to tell my staff, my team that stop the behaviors before the behavior starts. I know someone had mentioned earlier too that it was one of the first presentations, forgive me, but about checking ourselves in our mental, in our emotional,
Well, that was
because
me, Letitia. Yeah.
yes, Letitia, checking in with yourself. I used to ask everybody, "How are you?" And everybody's so conditioned to be like, "Oh, I'm fine." No, you don't seem fine. Let's talk about it before you walk into this environment that we've prepared. We don't want to mess it up with, things that just being short fused and because of something that you can't really control or something that happened before you even got to work. So. Yes. Is there a hand up?
Yeah,
Or are you high-fiving me?
go ahead.
Mine.
Oh.
Both. High-fiving and first, thank you. And the start of your presentation, I was thinking about my experience because I came to Montessori also as a critical person.
Yes.
And I was reading a book about from her, and I was thinking, how heavy is this lady? She sounds really, let's see what it is. And then it was during my training as an educator, and I had some intern, and I had the same. No, not I'm. How do you say it? Uh, I was the intern, something like this, and I started there and was it's 6 months. Let's see what it is.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, after 2 weeks, I was hooked. So
Oops.
we also did the training, but I was thinking about two things you've said. First, the thing about the feelings, children, and especially people who have this kind of gift, they always feel how you feel, and you
Uh-huh.
can't hide it. So it's important to tell them. And the other thing is in the same area. What I do and love to do with my children in the kindergarten is show them that I'm also a clumsy person, that I'm also
Yes.
forgetting. For instance, for the longest times, I was looking for my keys, and I told them, I can't find my keys. Do you know where they are? And I explained them to them how they look and what kind of ribbon I have on it. And at one point they found it, of course, and said, here it is, here it is. And the other thing I was thinking about, because I don't know when it was, but you've told about the children. And I was thinking about a boy I had in my classroom. And now he is diagnosed with ADHD, but
Mhm.
what is it, diagnosed? Um, but his gift was he was the one about respect. He
Uh-huh.
wanted to be the one who wants, he was an advocator for everything.
Mhm.
If he saw something that he thought was
Yeah.
wrong, he jumped right in it. The problem was that other children and also adults didn't get it, why he was doing it. All they saw was the boy, let's call him Adam, he he came to us and he took my things and something like this, and he started the fight. I always got, and from adults I got the opinion he started the fight, and I said no, he didn't. He tried
Oh,
to solve the fight.
yes.
But what had he has to learn, or he had to learn to understand that not everyone appreciate if you are going into this conflict, and you have to stay back sometimes, and you maybe
Mm-hmm.
have to ask, do you need help? Do you need advocating? Something like this. And this boy is great. He
Yes.
is. Yeah. But this is my observation with a lot of children. I like these children. I'm sometimes jealous about their capabilities to be so open. I'm an open
Right?
person as well, and I'm a sensitive person, and I'm an
Yes.
empath. But these kinds of feelings, they come in a room and they read the room
Mm-hmm.
instantly. It's amazing. It's amazing. So thank you for your inspiring talk. Perfect.
Oh, well, thank you. I think that first of all, the word empath, I'm glad that you mentioned that you were an empath because the world needs more of it. The world needs more children of childlike behavior, of bluntness that is kind and genuine concern. And so why not teach them that? I feel like that should be a subject area of just being what the world can like perceives as unhinged when it just kind of floods out, that word vomit that just comes out. We need more of that because it takes the guesswork out of it. I love a student that just speaks their mind. I'm one of those people that's like, huh, okay. That's why I call them my peers because I learn from them as well. It's not sometimes I'm like, we need to find an adult.
No,
We
they
need
don't.
help with this.
No, they don't.
No, I say that. I say we need to find an adult, right? Because I think that it is the purest form of flattery to me is where a child views me as someone they're working alongside instead of someone who is teaching them. That is the biggest form of flattery because it's let me know that I've done my job and I have truly met the child where they are. Right?
absolutely agree.
So that's all I have. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you
Could you
all.
share your information as well? Because maybe I didn't get it.
Oh, I will I'm gonna put it in the link below. I'm gonna put my email address. Yeah. I'll put my email address down there, and then you guys feel free to reach out to me. I'll be a sounding board, a listening person. I'll give what advice I can, and if I don't know, I'm sure I know somebody who does know. So I love when we can collaborate. I feel like this is the most important part of being an instructor, is being able to get a hold of like-minded individuals, and even individuals who think differently from you, because iron sharpens iron. And so I love having a dialogue with somebody who views something drastically different from me, because eventually what happens is we meet in the middle, and they either calm me down or I gas them up. Either way, we're learning from each other. So, yeah. We do need glitter to throw.
Definitely. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Thank you.